Hey guys, Martin here, recording a new We're Still Here to go up at some point in January. I'm not sure when, but it's just been the new year, and we rang it in by hanging out with a number of our friends and a number of new people that I hadn't met before, which is nice. It's always nice to meet new people. I'm not one for parties usually, so I kept in the quiet half of the room, the part of the room that had less screaming in it. There was a lot of screaming. There was a lot of people. There was a lot of people, and there were a significant enough percentage of them were drunk to the point that the noise level was way above what I feel comfortable uh, being part of. But speaking of noise, I don't know if you can hear it right now, but I think the downstairs neighbor is playing Rock Band or just playing music. I assume it's Rock Band just because he's played the same song several times, and I assume he's trying to get the 5-star, rating or whatever it is. It's kind of frustrating because he'll do it very early in the morning sometimes, and there'll be times when I want to record stuff like right now, and it's kind of distracting, but you're not here to listen to me complain about my neighbor. So yeah, it was a good New Year's celebration, and it was nice. And of course, for those of you who haven't seen the last We're Still Here that I uploaded, at least according to this date, we have a new dog. Our first dog that me and Mariana own, together. I've had several dogs throughout my life, but this is the first one I'm sort of owning as the owner alongside Mariana, my wife. And her name's Tilly, and she's adorable, and she bites everything. So if I have to pause at some point because she's biting my feet, don't be surprised. But yeah, I just wanted to have the little introduction, and I hope that your New Year's celebration was nice. And if it wasn't, then, well, it's over, and we're into January now, and it's a new start, it's a new year, and I'm proud of you for making it through the last one. So without further ado, here's something that makes me happy. I I haven't talked about it on the YouTube channel that much. I mentioned it briefly in the Loot Crate video for last month, but I got to record the audio description for The Blind for The Force Awakens, the new Star Wars movie. You may have heard of it. A little independent film that came out. That's on track to, right now, as I've read on the internet, it's on track to beat Avatar in the next week or two, as far as the highest grossing film of all time goes, which is crazy. It's exciting because that means a lot more Star Wars to come. And as I've mentioned in previous We're Still Here's, I love Star Wars. I love it. I want to be in in that world. I don't just want to be involved in the movies or whatever. That would be really cool. It's never going to happen. But I dream of living in the Star Wars world. I dream of having Force powers and all that stuff. Who doesn't? That's kind of the fantasy of any little boy or girl who watches those movies, I'm sure. But I got to sit in and record the narration essentially for the movie, and before it confuses a lot of people when I talk about it, because I know it's not a huge gig, and a lot of people tell me off for saying that, but it's not. It's basically it's the audio track that you usually don't listen to if you don't have to. But it's on every DVD, and it's provided in the theater as well. If you go in and you ask for the audio narration description for the blind, then you can get a little headset with a tape that plays, or it might be digital now, I don't know. But yeah, you get that, and if you get it for The Force Awakens in any English-speaking theater, either in the US or in England or in Europe, I assume, you get me telling you what's going on in the movie, which it's kind of surreal for me because. I mean, again, it's not like I'm in the movie, but it's a part of the film in a way. For people who can't see it visually, I'm reading the opening scroll at the beginning. I'm explaining how the lightsabers are colliding with each other. I'm describing every TIE fighter that gets shot down. And it was kind of a thrill to just be brought in a month before the film came out to sit and watch it and just describe, without, I had to treat it like any other job, which you can imagine was rather difficult because I was basically getting a preview screening of Star Wars, and I had to sit on all these spoilers. By the way, I'm not going to talk about any spoilers in this video, but I had to sit down and just like calmly, or in some cases with a bit of emotion, I had to just calmly tell people what was happening, according to the script that shows up on the screen. And there were times when it was hard, because if you've seen the film, you're either going to, like, there are times when you're going to get really excited. There are times when you're going to get really sad and upset. And it was hard to just not have those emotions and try and, just focus on the job. And it was really exciting. They had a lot of security involved. They had they had to bring me in for a briefing and everything. And it was very different from what I'm used to with, like, because I've done narration before. I've narrated documentaries and I've done a few other things, but commercials and stuff. But I've never, done anything where they basically had to drill into me, you can't do any of this and you have to do this and you make sure you don't do this. And there's going to be a guy watching you the whole time, so don't think of doing anything. And it was very high pressure because they had to do it in a very limited time window as well. But it was also just high tension because it was Star Wars. This was my first time seeing any of these new characters and these new stories that were being told, and the funny part is, this is the part that makes me laugh. At least it makes a few of my friends laugh as well, because they knew, and I was specifically avoiding spoilers for years leading up to this film. I was specifically, every time there was a trailer released, every time a TV spot came out, anytime there was screenshots on Tumblr, I would just close the window and leave and plug my ears and be like, la 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 la. I was very adamant that I wanted to sit down in the theater on opening day and just have that experience and be taken away to a galaxy far, far away and just not know what was going on and be thrilled and surprised and everything. And then they basically had me come in and just sit and watch every little bit of the film in, like, moment by moment, and just, because it's not like I sat and watched the film casually. I was sitting and going over each bit of footage, like, as every story beat that happened. Sorry, the cat's currently attacking my tripod. Oh, there she goes. She jumped onto the futon, which is covered in equipment right now because we're in the middle of upgrading someone's PC. What are you doing, mama? You're not going to find any comfy spots there. She's trying to sit on a keyboard right now. You struggling? I'll leave her to it. But yeah, they had me come in and like, obviously I was narrating the story, and so it was like I had to see the first part of the first scene and then the second part of the first scene, but they weren't like flowing into each other. So it was like I wasn't getting the experience I wanted, but I got to see Star Wars early, essentially, and be paid to do that. And it'll be on the DVD when it comes out. When it comes out on Blu-ray and DVD, you'll be able to tune into audio track 5 or 6 or whatever's going to be on there and listen to Martin Billany just narrate Star Wars and tell you the story of Finn, Poe, and Rey and what they're doing. And, of course, all the old characters that come back. And it's a huge honor. It's a huge honor to be able to do that, for people who, don't have, the benefit of sight or, as good a sight as, we take for granted. It's on New Year's Eve, when we had the party, a friend of mine sat me down and basically just screamed at me about how exciting it was that I was the voice of Star Wars for some people, and how proud he was. And it's pretty humbling, because I've watched those movies and dreamed about being, in that world. And now there's a new generation who are going to watch these new movies and dream about it. And, I'm not a huge part of that for any of them, but I'm a small part. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. That's really cool on its own, to be the guy who narrated The Force Awakens, one of the biggest films ever. It was weird. But yeah, that's a cool thing. And the movie's really good, if you haven't seen it yet. If you've been hesitant, or if you're, still a bit miffed about the whole expanded universe thing going down, see the movie. It's really cool. It's everything you love about Star Wars. Yes, it borrows a lot of its story beats from A New Hope, but I think they had to kind of do that. And I think there's nothing wrong inherently with that. I think that it's just a nice homage. It's a love letter to the original movie. But it also has very unique characters and very unique settings, and it's worth it. And it's Star Wars, and it's back. And that's exciting. I won't lie, I've seen a lot of people, and I've had a lot of people say to my face, this whole depression thing, what's the deal? Is it a real thing? And obviously there are people who are never going to understand it. And I don't mean to say that in a way that suggests that, well, you just don't understand. That's not a healthy attitude to have. You have to understand that people aren't going to understand, because let's face it, if you've been dealing with depression for a long time, if you remember what it was like at the beginning, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand what was happening to me. I assumed I was just a bit under the weather, and I'm still sort of baffled by it. So obviously there are going to be other people who don't quite, have a grip on, what you're going through. Even though you and I may have very similar experiences with depression, that doesn't mean that I might understand the way you feel exactly, So the fact that there's that, that sort of divergence there suggests that obviously people who don't have to deal with this on a day-to-day basis are going to be kind of confused. They're going to be confused, and some of them are going to say things that might bother you in the way that they suggest that they don't quite get depression. And that's probably a good thing, when you think about it, when you are able to step away from, the way you're feeling. If they are in such a good place, or if they're in a stable enough place that they can't fathom being in this sort of unending, no way out situation emotionally, then that's probably really good. And that's something I would encourage them to feel. I don't really want them to know, the sort of nonsense we have to go through. But it's going to happen. People are going to come up to you and be like, well, why don't you just smile more? Or people are going to come up to you and be like, well, why don't you just, distract yourself or something? And honestly, they're trying to give you advice, and they're trying to help. And in those situations, that's a good thing. And hopefully you're able to see past, what, might be considered ignorance. But there are also going to be people who come up to you and are like, well, stop whining, and stop crying about this, and get over it. That's the phrase I hear more often than not, especially from people who don't know me. But, I understand that, after hearing it so many times, it's not always out of spite, and it's not always people trying to attack you. Sometimes it's people who are just like, I don't get this. Can you just go back to the way you were before? When it was fun to hear from you, or fun to talk to you, or hang out with you. Sometimes they're just not. They're being a bit thoughtless. Sometimes intentionally ignorant. But I don't think it's always a place of. It's always from a place of hate. There are going to be those people, and if people come up to you and make fun of you for being depressed, or make light of your situation in any way, then they have bigger problems. They have a completely different set of problems compared to just being depressed. They're dicks. They're not nice people, and maybe if you're associating with those people, maybe you should, I don't know, reconsider. But at the end of the day, comments like "get over it," while they're definitely painful and it hurts. And I remember the first group therapy session I had, somebody said to me, well, you don't even seem depressed, and they weren't saying that to hurt me, but it hurt. And I've talked about, how in previous videos I've talked about how knowing something and feeling something are very different. And I knew that what she said wasn't an attack or an insult, but it felt the way I would feel if I'd been attacked. But it's important to know their perspective. It's important to know that the people who say "get over it," who love you, people who love you, who say those things, they're not coming after you, and they're not trying to undermine the way you feel. They just don't understand. And it's very easy to not understand it. Like I said, I barely understand it, and I'm living it. But what I'm basically trying to say with this segment, and it's not even like, this isn't me telling you to do something, but I want you to think when someone says those words or says something similar that might rattle you a little bit, and might even, trigger some feelings that, make you feel worse than you already do. I want you to try and sort of think of that conversation that you're having with that person as, two people speaking two completely different languages trying to explain something. Like imagine if you go to a foreign country and you have no idea, the local dialect or the language or anything like that, or the customs, and you're trying to get somewhere, and you say to somebody, well, how do I get there? And they tell you, oh, you go that way, but because they've misunderstood what you said, and they don't know where you're trying to go, and they completely botched the whole thing. Maybe you misspoke, or maybe they just heard something differently, but they don't know, and they point you in the wrong direction, and they're doing it with the best of intentions because they don't understand. And that's how it is when people, with all legitimacy and with an attempt to help, tell you something that hurts and that shows that they don't know, because they don't know. And it's a shame, but it's something that's really hard. It's a really, really big thing. It's a big concept because it's completely internal. It's a fight that it's an invisible war that we're going through. And if people can't see it or feel it, they don't believe it's there sometimes. And you can't fix that for some people, and you can't fix it for everyone. But there's hopefully at least one person in your life who understands. And if there's not, there are people out there who want to understand. I really hope you can't hear this terrible music playing from my neighbor throughout this whole thing, because it probably makes it may even take the video down because of copyright, now that I think about it. But I really hope that this video helped. It's helped me to talk about that and to get that off my chest. I know that's not like a huge burden or anything like that, but I feel like too many times when someone displays the fact that they don't understand something, or that they're ignorant about something, we jump down their throat, or we close ourselves off for them. But we have to we either have to persevere, or what's the point? So I hope this week finds you well, and I hope that there are people in your life who understand. They're out there. You take care of yourself, all right? I'll see you next week.